Hello fellow travelers and welcome back to our Big's Adventure. My name is Cynthia and today we're gonna can some beef and vegetable soup. That's right, I've got all my jars out and my ingredients ready to go. If you're ready, press the like button. It's right there. And let's get to work.
I am so blessed as always to have Mr. Biggs in the kitchen helping me set up my mise en place for canning. When I'm canning, I like to have all of my ingredients ready to go and set up really neat and orderly, so I usually prep everything all at once. Mr. Biggs loves canning day. He even made me a protein shake.
I have everything that I need assembled for a day of canning. I've got this venison broth that we made from our roadkill deer. I'm gonna link that video at the end of this video so you can check it out. This was made from her bones. I've got all the beef that I got on sale at Winn Dixie this week, some yellow squash and some green squash, zucchini, carrots. I've got some corn here. I thought that would be nice to add in. Some frozen green beans that are thawed. This is dehydrated kale. Onion under here. Woo! I don't have a lot of garlic, so I am going to use some garlic powder today when I'm canning. And I've got 7 bouillon cubes, 1 for each. Let's start filling the jars.
There's no actual recipe for this beef vegetable soup. I do know that my jars will be going for 90 minutes in the canner because I am canning meat and all of my vegetables are low acid and safe for pressure canning. I've made soups this way for literal years. I just add my meat, add all of my vegetables in, make sure that I'm getting out those air bubbles, and pack the jar as tight as I can get it.
Now comes the magic. We're gonna add this delicious venison bone broth to the jar. The jars are packed full and you may ask yourself, hey, you're not leaving a lot of room for broth in here. You're right, I like to pack my meat and vegetables in the jar as tightly as I can, put a little bit of broth, and then the day that I open the jar, I can add more broth, I can add more veggies from the garden, I can add collard greens, kale, I could add potatoes, rice, I could add quinoa noodles, could add quinoa. Could serve this over mashed potatoes and thicken it. There's a ton of possibilities once I open this jar, but if I leave a ton of the gravy, there's gonna be less possibilities for me. So we're not full because there's plenty of air bubbles in here. So we're just gonna mash those down. And we want about 1 inch of headspace. So I am gonna put you back on time lapse and come back.
There is a decent amount of fat in this broth, so I'm trying to make sure that each jar gets a little bit of the fat in it. We are not scared of fat, and if we were in a situation where we had a calorie deficit, our brains would be very thankful for the fat inside those jars.
I have a mix of, I have a mix of Golden Harvest lids and ball lids that I'm going to be using for this project today. I've got 7 of them, and I have an All-American canner. So those will be going in the All-American canner here in just a minute.
The new ball lids do not require that you boil the lid prior to canning, so I just soak my lids in some warm water.
For you canners out there, what do you do with your extra lid, extra rings? What do you guys do with those? I have them in a drawer in my pantry. I have one of those plastic storage unit thingies, you know, like you buy at Walmart when you're in college to keep your clothes in. I keep them in there. We're just gonna go finger tight here. We're gonna go tight and an extra 1/4 of a turn. And then we're going in the canner. Mr. Biggs filled my canner. Yes, Mr. Biggs filled my canner for me when the video started, when I started recording. We're just gonna put a nice big glug, it's a technical term, glug of vinegar in there to keep the lime scale off of my jars. I think there's too much water in here, but we will take some out if we need to. Look how pretty that jar is. And that's gonna be 14 meals coming out of the canner, 1 for me and 1 for Mr. Biggs. Cold canner, cold jars.
For you new canners out there, you always want to do cold canner, cold jars, or hot canner and hot jars when you're doing soup so that you make sure that you're getting the correct temperature and your jars don't bust.
And at this point, I always like to say the children were nestled all snug in their beds. Like, I just feel like they're all snugged in there. They're ready to go. They look great. I've got vinegar on the rims. Got cold canner. I just turned it on. There we go. Want to put the lid on?
When tightening down the canner lid, you're going to want to always go on the opposite sides of the canner. So just put them down tight enough, not super tight, but not loose either. Make sure that your lid is the same spacing all the way around.
And there we have it. We're ready. We need to wait for steam to start coming out of here. It's called venting. And then we'll be ready to go. And since I have all these ingredients out, let's make one for the crock pot that doesn't last on the shelf for 5 years.
I like to have soup on Sundays in our house. It's a great meal to finish the week with, and it makes a great lunch for Monday as well.
We have all this yummy fat on the top. There's too much for just this crock pot though. A little bit of fat, fine. All the fat, not so much.
It was super easy to throw together this soup in the crock pot for our dinner on Sunday. I threw in a can of tomatoes just to stretch it out a little bit more and had to peel up some extra carrots. No big deal. Drop me your favorite soup recipe in the comments down below.
That already looks good and it's not even cooked. A beefy tomato venison broth, very hearty. Excited for that.
There's the end of my day of canning. I ended up with 7 jars of soup and an entire canner full of just beef in a jar. I'm so glad I was able to pick up those roasts on sale.
Thank you so much for watching. I just realized when I was editing this video that I deleted my outro. Thank you again, and remember everybody, life is an adventure, so enjoy your journey. Bye-bye. Bye.